What's up everyone, back for another beer review, and today I'll be reviewing yet another beer from the Lagunitas Brewing Company, and they are headquartered in Petaluma, California, and this is the Waldos Special Ale, the 2023 release. So they're calling this one a Triple IPA. That comes in at 11.7% alcohol by volume, over 100 IBUs at the time of review. This bottle is just under 2 months old. So if you follow the channel, you know that it's very rare for me to do re-reviews of beers. I just don't do it unless it's maybe a seasonal or an annual release that maybe the recipe changes or something changes with it. So I don't really do re-reviews all that often. However, I have reviewed this one before on the channel back in 2019. I think it was May of 2019. So almost 4 years to the day. And the reason why I'm re-reviewing this one is because a huge supporter of the channel, a very good friend of mine, Billy, wanted to see me review this year's release, and Billy has hooked me up with numerous beer mails. He supports the channel by commenting on almost every video. He watches a lot of the reviews, so the least I could do for Billy was grab this and re-review it. And I'm curious to see how this one is, because the one I reviewed in 2019 was just over 2 weeks old. This is just under 2 months old, so I want to see what like 5 to 5.5 weeks of age does to this one. And this year they mentioned that as far as the hops go, they're using Yakima's most dank Citra and Mosaic hops. So this is a beer that's released every spring for 420, April 20th. You guys know. You guys know this is supposed to be a dank, marijuana-esque beer. And it's always pretty delicious. Now, the one that I reviewed back in 2019, I gave it 4.2 out of 5 to, and I went back and watched that review. I rarely do that when I do re-reviews or comparisons or anything like that. I always forget. This time I went back and watched it, and I'm curious to see what I'll say about this one in comparison to that one. I will mention that as I'm reviewing it, like what the differences were, unless you want to go and check out that review, but probably not. So I poured that one into the Firestone Walker little small glass that I had. Now I'm pouring it this year into the Tiku because I broke that glass like an idiot. So a little bit of a cheat there. All right. So yeah, that pours out this beautiful like orange, golden orange color. You hold it up to the light. Yeah, that is a beautiful looking old school Triple IPA. The clarity is fantastic. It's almost lager-esque. You can see right through it. You can see my hand, or I can see my hand, I should say. You can see it. Can you see my hand through it? You maybe see my face through it. The clarity is fantastic. Decent carbonation. Just over a finger, or right around a finger of this like cream colored head that looks pretty creamy, somewhat soap sudsy, but that like in this Tiku, like it just looks fucking phenomenal if I'm being honest with you. Let's get a nose. Yeah. So the first thing that I notice is it's not as pungent hop-wise, and again, this is just under 2 months old. So I didn't expect it to be the exact same as reviewing it over 2 weeks old, but there's a lot, and I mentioned that review, there's a lot of like bready caramel, but I also get like a distinct like honey kind of aroma. Like I don't know if they're using honey malts, probably not, but like just the malt character is kind of honey, caramel, sweeter kind of vibe to it. But the nose, as far as the hops goes, like yeah, there's a lot of sweeter fruit here. Like there's a lot of sweet orange, there's some sweet peach, there's a little bit of like a slight berry note, very slight, probably from the Mosaic. This one's all about citrus. It's orange, it's sweeter grapefruit. It's like you took a ruby red grapefruit, sprinkled sugar on top of it, sweeter peach. There's also like a nice resinous pine character in the nose. Like you know it's gonna have a resinous bite to it when you drink it. But yeah, it's piney, it's earthy, it's herbaceous, it's dank. But this isn't as dank as that, just over 2 week old bottle in 2019 I had. So it's a little bit, I think, tame from the dankness or the marijuana-esque kind of feeling to the nose. Like it's toned down a bit, could be age, could be just this year's release, but whatever the case may be, it still smells fantastic. My mouth is watering, so let's get into it. Cheers, everybody. Thanks again, Billy, for the recommendation. I'm glad I picked this one up. I probably, should re-review beers more, especially ones that I enjoy from year to year, so maybe I'll try to do that a little bit more going forward. Anyway, cheers, everyone. Listen, this beer typically always delivers for me. I always forget how that substantial bitterness hits my palate, and it hits it in such a beautiful way nowadays. Even in 2019, in that review, I'm like, you know what? I've been talking recently how I like more bitterness. Back in 2019, 2021, that's when I really started enjoying like older school West Coast IPAs, double IPAs, triple IPAs. I enjoyed more of the bitterness because when I first started drinking craft beer, I didn't want anything to do with bitterness. I didn't want pine. I didn't want dankness. I didn't want, you know, my IPA to be moderately to full-on bitter. I liked sweeter beers. Over the course of time, my palate has developed to the point where it's like, yeah, I can still get down with a hazy that's sweet, but my palate also wants some kind of bitterness in whatever I'm drinking or something to offset the sweetness. And this is a beautiful marriage of both worlds. Like, this is just really tasty. And I think that first sip or two, I'm enjoying it more than 2019 by a little bit. Yeah, by a little bit. Anyway, another sip. Mine, this is lower side of full, medium full, kind of in that range of 11.7. Some people might say it's thin. It's perfect for me. I don't want this to be thick and syrupy and over the top, but it's a huge body, and it's 11.7%. This is a huge body for like a hop forward beer. So I'm absolutely fine with the body. I think it's fantastic and right in my wheelhouse, although I could see somebody saying this is thin. The mouthfeel, it's an old school mouthfeel. It's very crisp. It's effervescent on the palate. It's spritzy, the carbonation's dancing on your tongue. But while that's happening, it does have a smoothness to it. It's not like super creamy, but it has a smooth kind of finish for something almost approaching 12%. The taste, first thing that hits me is all that malt goodness. The first thing that I notice is, and this is the difference I think back to 2019 where it was fresher, that honey kind of leads the way. It goes, for me, like honey, caramel, and bread. And it's like a white bread. Maybe, yeah, it's more of a white bread than anything else. But that hits me right from the palate, dives underneath, but it's more noticeable, I think, in this beer being almost 2 months old and a different vintage, obviously. Right after that, though, a lot of citrus. It's sweeter and pithy, orange. It's, again, that ruby red grapefruit with a little sugar sprinkled on top. And then there's a little bit of stone fruit that hits me, like a peach and apricot, something in that realm. Maybe a touch of like a pineapple. The berry I was getting in the nose really didn't carry over. That's the first half to 2/3 of the palate. On the back, that's where that dank, marijuana-esque kind of vibe hits. Again, it's not as substantial as it was in the 2019, the fresher bottle. I think as this, ages a little bit, that's going to die out a little bit, but it's still noticeable. I get more of like a piney, resinous kind of finish. This finish is moderately to a touch over moderately bitter with a full-on dryness. It's pretty sweet up front, not going to bullshit you. Almost 12%, all the malt they're using. Up front, all that sweetness from not only the malt, but the hops mixing in with the malt, thinking, sweeter citrus fruits, sweeter, peach and apricot. That is stopped in its tracks on the back of the palate with that dank, piney, resinous, just over moderately, it's almost full-on bitter finish. 11.9 or 11.7%. I can feel it in the chest. And you can tell it's a bigger beer on the palate, right? If I was doing this blind, there's no way I fucking say it's 11.7. I would guess at the most 10.5, but I'd probably say like 9.5, 10. It hides it relatively well for what it is. And what's beautiful is I'm sitting here talking and, reviewing this beer. On the tip of my tongue, there's this like sweet orange kind of just, I don't know, leftover kind of character. It's a phenomenal beer. This is definitely... It might be personal preference. It might be the vintage. It might be whatever. I mean, I've heard so many people, when this beer comes out each year, you'll get, last year's was better. 3 years ago was better. For what I'm enjoying and where I am palate-wise, the age of this bottle in comparison to the 2019 everything, this to me, I'm enjoying more than the 2019. I'm not enjoying it substantially more. Like, this is not, like, I give that 4.2. I'm not going to give this a 5 out of 5 or anything, right? But I'm really enjoying this one. So I'm going to have to give an appropriate rating based on how I'm feeling. And I just want to thank Billy again for recommending this one because I wouldn't have picked it up. And I'm glad I did because I'm going to drink this one tonight. I'm probably going to take that down in the next, half an hour or so, sip on it. But I really enjoy this one. And I probably should review it every year. We'll see. There's so many beers out there to review. So re-reviewing beer is kind of not a priority, but I'm glad I did with this one. So the Waldos Special Ale. The 2023 release, no issues whatsoever, giving this beer right here a low 4.5 out of 5 and go 4.4 out of 5. This is fucking delicious. And I think if I do ever re-review this one, or I just buy it to just drink off camera, I'm probably going to try to get this in the 6 to 8 week realm. Because again, this is almost 2 months old, and I think this is drinking just in my wheelhouse. I think it's not as bitter as prior vintages I have of this, and I've had those fresher. And it's right in the wheelhouse where it has a great mixture of the sweetness, the bitterness, the dryness. But I just love the flavors right now, how it's hitting my palate. So 4.4 out of 5 all day, every day right now for that beer. Price point availability, it's Lagunitas. Like, they have fantastic price points. I'm thinking, and I bought a single of this, I'm pretty sure it's a 6-pack, and I think 6-packs in my area were $13.99. Even if that was a 4-pack, for 11.7% beer for $14 4-pack would be insane. Pretty sure they're 6-packs. So $14 for a 6-pack in my area of this, fucking absurd. And it might even be cheaper in your area. It might be a little bit more expensive, but this is quality through and through, especially if you like old school triple IPAs, like West Coast triple IPAs. Like, you can't go wrong. And Lagunitas, wherever you see Lagunitas, you should see this in your general area. You might not see it, right at the beer store that you see, their other year-round offerings. But if you do get Lagunitas generally in your area, when this shows up every single March into April, you should see this on the shelf at some point at one of your local bottle shops, maybe even grocery stores, I would assume. Maybe not. If not, post in the comment section, let me know. Did you not see this year? Because I would be curious. And also post in the comment section, did you have this year's vintage? If you've had this year's vintage and you're somebody who buys it every year, what did you think about this in comparison? Did you like last year's better? Did you like 2 years ago better? Did you like the 2019? I'm never I'm fine with people saying, hey, I like different vintages better, or this is my favorite or not. I'm not one of those guys that always goes, last year's was better, or 2 years ago's was better, and completely dismiss this. If this wasn't as good as 2019, I would totally tell you. To me, it's better than 2019. Is that because of the age of the beer? Is that because of the batch? Is that because of something else? I have no idea. I'm just telling you right now, this year's vintage at almost 2 months old, fucking great, and I love it. And I thank Billy for suggesting that I pick this one up, because I couldn't be happier that I'm drinking this one right now. So huge thanks to everybody out there for checking out another beer review here on the Beer Patrol. To the next one. Cheers.